All right. I'd like to call to order the June 10th, 2024 regular school board meeting of Community Unit School District 303 here at 6 p.m. Ms. Marsan, will you take the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Fairgrieve is absent this evening. Mrs. Bell?
Here.
Mr. Kuschert?
Here.
Mr. Lentz?
Here.
Mrs. McCabe?
Here.
Mr. McNally?
Here.
Mr. Lackner?
Here. That brings us to item 2 on the agenda, the public hearing. Pardon me. Item 1B, the pledge to the flag. With the pledge completed, that will bring us to item 2, the public hearing. Item 2A, the public hearing on the fiscal year 2023-2024 Community Unit School District amended budget. I'd like to call to order the public hearing for the fiscal year 23-24 Community School District 303 amended budget at 6:02 p.m. As a reminder, the amended budget was discussed at the March 21 Business Services Committee meeting and approved for public display at the April 8th, 2024 board meeting. The disclosure of cash balances is included in the board packet. Do any community members have any comments on the public hearing? Seeing none, do any board members have any comments on the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed at 6:03 p.m. I want to remind the community that an action item associated with the adoption of this amended budget will be on the 6/17 special board meeting agenda. That brings us to item 3, reports to the board. Dr. Gordon, 3A is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. Tonight, we're honored to have a number of committee members from the Distinguished Alumni Committee, but I would like to ask Chief Judge Clint Hull to come forward and give us a little bit of a rundown. If you would mind just sitting over here, give us an update and a little bit of background on the Distinguished Alumni Committee and what you're all up to.
The former chief judge, but so anyway, first of all, good evening, everybody. I'd love to start by just introducing our committee. So we have Lisa Dandry right here, who is our District 303 representative. We have Jeff Hunt, who is a distinguished alum himself and a committee member as well. And we're just here to give you, it was one of the things I was talking to Dr. Gordon about the Distinguished Alumni Award. And I said, he just said, have you ever come to a board meeting and talked to the school board about the award? And I don't think that we ever have. And so this is an opportunity just to tell you a little bit about the program, give you a little bit of history, and then talk about what we're going to be doing this year. So first and foremost, why are we here? My words, it's to celebrate District 303. The Distinguished Alumni program was started in 1997. I don't know whether it was a board decision. I don't know whether it came from the superintendent, but at some point in time, the decision was made to form a committee to recognize distinguished alums from St. Charles. The award criteria was just as simple as the award is given to District 303 graduates who have demonstrated a high level of achievement in their field of endeavor or in their contribution to the community. So historically, the way that it started out, the first time it was given was back in 1997. It was given for 6 consecutive years from 97 to 2001. The award was a big deal. It was down at the Hotel Baker. It was a standalone dinner. The mayor at that time, Fred Norris, I think at the time, was involved. I remember attending some of those, and they were just, it was a gala. They recognized 6 or 7 distinguished alums. There was an induction, where someone would come up and talk about why they were being given the award. The recipient would give a speech, and it was just a celebration of District 303. For some reason, and I'm not exactly sure why, I was talking to Lisa today, but in 2001, it stopped. And so for about 11 years, nothing happened. Dr. Schloman called me in 2012 after I'd gotten to know him, the superintendent at the time, and had said, you know what, there's these wonderful plaques at St. Charles East. We need to celebrate District 303 and the alumni. We'd like to start up the program again. And at that time, he connected us with the Educational Foundation and said, I think it'd be a great partnership for the foundation and for the Distinguished Alumni Program to partner up and to bring the award back. So that's what we did. And so the award restarted back in 2012, and it went from 2012 to 2019. Instead of having a standalone dinner, it was with the Ed Foundation. It was at their gala. And eventually that worked out really, really well, except that at some point it was described as trying to throw a birthday party in the middle of a wedding. And it was, because you had these two fantastic events going on. The Educational Foundation were wonderful partners with us, but they were doing their thing and trying to raise money. We were trying to honor distinguished alums in the middle of it. And eventually the decision was made, maybe we could do something different. And so in 2017, 2018, 2019, what we did is, instead of having a dinner, we brought the alums back, thanks to Lisa and the administration, both at St. Charles East and St. Charles North. We invited the alums back, the winners back. They went to the schools, and one of the handouts that you just got was just an outline of what they did and what we're going to do again this year. So they would come back and with Lisa's help, and then a couple other people at North, Lindsay Boynton now, they would spend 3 class periods at East. We would have a celebratory lunch with the superintendent. Then they would go over to North. And what Lisa did at that time, what we would do is we would look at our award winners. We would look at the field of accomplishment. Lisa would work with the teachers at East, the other at North, and try to figure out how did they align. And then they would set up, so they would go talk to the classes. For instance, the person who won the black hole went and talked to the science. And we had a broadcaster, Wayne Rendazzo, who wanted to talk to the baseball team and then talk to the classes about that. So you can see that it was aligned, and it was an incredible opportunity for our alums to talk to our current students about sitting in the same chairs that they sat in, how they got to where they were. And ultimately, when we talked to the alums about whether they, what their favorite part of the whole thing was, hands down, the favorite part was going into the classroom and talking to the kids. And so just to kind of give you an idea, another handout that I gave you was it is a 3-page document that outlines all the winners. The way that it is alphabetized is by the categories. So, arts, business, community, education, law, media, medicine, military. Lisa, now we have so many good candidates right now that are in the entrepreneurial side that there's no right. What we try to do is we try to figure out category wise what we need to recognize. I think one of the most interesting things is at some point in time, the committee said, you know what, we're recognizing people that have won Emmys. We're recognizing people that have discovered black holes. What about the local person who stayed home and contributed to our own community? What about that person? And so that's been a fantastic. Jim Gaffney, one of your fellow school board members, was recognized. Jeff Orland, the owner of Avenue 2 Barbershop, was recognized. So I think what we've really done is found a really, really good balance of who we want to recognize. And just going through 67 recipients, just to give you some ideas: actors, musicians, and conductors, people that have won Emmys, been on TV shows. And then again, we have our own Jeff Hunt, who will be humble, but is, just can't say enough about what he's done in St. Charles and in this community for arts and music. Business owners like Jeff Orland, Tom Anderson from Colonial Ice Cream, CEOs, pro athletes, and a World Cup player, Mr. McNally. We have Marcy Miller-Jobson, who played in the World Cup. Mayors, Fred Norris and Don DeWitt. D303 teachers, Dr. Bill Steppen, Ron Brown, and then I would call D303 Titans, Worth Gustafson and Charles Haynes. So when you look at the type of people that we're talking about, it really is the best of the best. And so when we talked about committee members, I'm really, really sorry. I was right over the head, but in addition to here, we have Scott, who has been a part of, and Who else? Oh, I didn't see Lindsay come in. So Lindsay as well. And Scott's been fantastic from an administrative side and helping us. And one is between Lindsay and Scott. They made the decision that we needed to do more to promote the award. Lindsay did just an incredible job of putting the application online. As a result, we ended up getting about 30 more applications. So we are now over 40 people that have been nominated that we're sorting through. And then all of this for the first time, thanks to Scott's efforts, was put out on the District 303 webpage. And so it was just it's a huge thing. That's something that I know you're proud of and we're very proud of, but it really went from one level to another level with the help of the two of them recently. So 2024. So I ended up, COVID came along, COVID shut us down. I'd also say that it gave us an opportunity to kind of regroup. We got a new superintendent, and so walked in and talked to him, immediately supportive. And so 2024, we started up and we have our newest class that are going to come back on November 14th and November 15th. It hasn't been publicized yet, but you're the board, so we're going to make sure that you guys know. We have Cheryl Denz, who is a 1991 grad, owns Riverside Counseling in downtown St. Charles. The board really loved how she has stayed home and treats a lot of people, but it really has focused on kids and anxiety. And so the committee just thought that was a wonderful selection. Karen Schmidt is a 1996 grad. She's a managing partner, corporate trainer, recognized by the Dallas Business Journal as a 40 under 40. The other part that I think that the committee loves is now they're looking for that balance of not only just professional success, but also what have they been doing charity-wise. She's been a part of a foundation that has continued to raise money. Rick Gibson is a 1985 grad. He's a lawyer. He was selected. This was his first time up. It's really, really rare for someone to be selected their first time. Rick, when he took the bar in Ohio, got the highest score. So not bad. But I think what the committee loved about it is he and his wife founded up an organization called Buddy Up for Life, where they focused on providing life skills for those with Down syndrome. And that has now, that organization is now in 13 states, 29 chapters. There was a U.S. News and World little segment on them. They were invited to the U.S. Open. And so, again, just incredible work. And then Jeff Ledour, who is in the arts, sings, produces, solo recital at Carnegie Hall. And one of the things I think that the group loved about him is Jeff talked about how despite the success that he's had, he comes back to St. Charles, he presents, he's there, and really is willing to do whatever he can to help the St. Charles community. So you can see, again, when I've heard you and watched you as a board celebrating success, I mean, not only these four, but everybody else that's been there, you just have a lot to be proud of because they walk these hallways. And I think that what I always love to hear them say is that they look back at their time in St. Charles and they look at their time in the school district and they talk about the teachers that had an incredible amount of influence on them. And they talk about how much they loved growing up in St. Charles and how that's impacted them no matter where they go. And that that's a testament to all the school boards that came before you, the superintendents. It's also a testament to you because I know that, the other thing that, and Lindsay is great about this is, we have another high school. A lot of our award winners come from St. Charles High School, home of the Fighting Saints, a high school grad. Then we have St. Charles East, and then we have St. Charles North. And so it takes a while to build those credentials, but the North has been around since 2000, and Lindsay does a great job of reminding us that, I think that there's a couple plaques at North. Because what they do is if you ever get a chance to go to East, right outside of the main office is a plaque of every winner, the year they were inducted with a summary, and then at North, I don't know when they did it, a couple of years ago, but they have their own place and they're ready for a lot more plaques, and I have no doubt that there will be a lot more soon to come. But so last thing is before any questions is like I said, very excited about 2024. November 14th is a Thursday. We have talked to all the winners. They're all coming back on, and Jeff even has a conflict, but he's still coming back. And then I think leaving on Friday, right, Jeff? Yeah. So Jeff, but so that's how, so they're coming back. We're working with Lisa and Lindsay right now. We want to do something probably at the Norris Culture Arts Center on Thursday night, where one of the suggestions that we had is we wanted to open up to the community an opportunity to come greet them and congratulate them. So, we would love for you guys to be a part of that. We also plan to take them out to dinner on Thursday night after that. Lisa just had a fantastic idea about who had the idea? The Colonial ice cream. Tom and Joe Anderson are distinguished alums themselves. And then you can never go wrong with a kitchen sink. So maybe we'll make them do that. And then on the 15th, that Friday, we have our committee members, Lisa, Lindsay, and others who are going to be setting up the opportunity to go into the classrooms. And we may even try to figure out a way for them to get to someplace other than the high school. But most importantly, thank you for your support. Again, I don't know where it came from. I don't know whether it was a board decision, a superintendent's decision, but whoever made the decision, it was a great decision. We really hope that you can be a part of it on the 14th and 15th, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about the award and what we're doing with it.
First off, this is great. Thank you. Appreciate the update, and it's so nice to hear what some of these folks are doing. They're certainly a nicely decorated group right here. So, and as you stated, many, many more to come. Just kind of a general question. Is it customary that a couple of people each year are recognized? Is there criteria for that selection, or is it just who's deserving?
So so initially, when you look, the first classes were 6 or 7 people. We ended up taking it down to 3 when it was part of the dinner, because we only had time, we had to recognize. And so I think that, again, there's no number this year because we'd been out of business per se for 2 or 3 years. We were given the permission to go up to 4. And what the bylaws say is that ultimately the decision's made by the D303. So you guys tell us how many we can honor, and that's how many we're going to honor. So as little as 3 and as much as 7 during the history of the award.
And that number wouldn't have to be the same each year, would it?
No.
And so you've made it public. One of these folks lives across the street from me. So I'm wondering how you're going to make the announcement publicly.
So what we wanted, the decision was made, and again, I can't say enough about Scott and Dr. Gordon. We've been working with them and putting this together. But so the idea is what we thought about. We selected them in February or March. And so then we thought about, okay, do we want to put it out? Scott's thought was, hey, listen, what we want to do is we want to build up to it. So the thought is that we would, with his help, put out a press release the end of August, let you guys get into the school year, put it out in August, and then have that roll into, and then the hope would be that the Shaw Media or the Daily Herald or somebody could potentially, they have in the past, cover when they come back and take some pictures of them in the school. So that's the idea. They've all been notified though. Part of the deal is that they need to be back. So they've all been notified, and so you could congratulate her. Yeah. It's public now.
Thank you. This is so incredible.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're coming back to it after COVID, and it makes lots of sense to have a couple more than you might in the past, just based on it's been quiet for a while. So what an exciting thing.
Thanks.
And as a parent who's had a grad from both schools, good for you, Miss Boynton, for making sure that SEN gets on the map. I mean, there is an Olympian from SEN, at least, that I'm aware of. So it's coming. I mean, it's 20 years. So it's coming. It's coming.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Thank you so much. And brilliant idea about the Andersons, because they're definitely a St. Charles staple. So that would be amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate Dr. Gordon and team, the ability to start celebrating again. This is one of those things that I think at graduation, like it kind of culminated, right? Of like all the work that we do all year that's there. And this is just it's so wonderful to hear. It's also, I think, awesome that we're getting into a classroom and getting them into a classroom to be able to see that. That's very it's very great. It gets me a little choked up about it. So thank you for this.
Oh, and I think the last thing that I'd say is, not only are the winners that come back always, want to do it, but the alum, they leave us with a couple different things. One is if you call, we will come. Let us know how we can help moving forward. And then the second thing is when we do call, they do come back. And so we have a lot of local, but we also have others that aren't. And I think I speak for the committee when I say the decision this year was incredibly difficult. The people that we left on the table, I just couldn't. And so I'm excited for you guys to see what's coming. The last thing that I laugh about is when we give them the award, we would try to connect one of our committee members with one of them so that they would greet them and have something to talk to them about. One of the most intimidating times of my life is I had to be the person who greeted the guy who discovered a black hole. Steve Full was an actor. He had been the voice on some MTV shows. I would have taken him to have to talk to Dr. John Peterson, who discovered a black hole. Wow. I don't know. I held it together, but that one was intimidating.
I have another procedural question. So the
Yeah.
people who are, as you say, left on the table this year, those people can be nominated again.
Yeah, so the bylaws, so we went through, we have a couple of attorneys on the committee, so we went through and redid the bylaws, so they stay on, once they're nominated, they stay on for 5 years. And so the idea is there's people that are right there knocking on the door. Again, because we had so many new nominations, the quality was really, and then after 5 years, if they haven't been selected, if a board member makes a motion to have them on for another 5 years, so they can stay on for as long as 10 years. And we have had some people that were on and then just weren't selected.
Well, thanks again. This is I'll echo the sentiments of the rest. This is an awesome thing for us to do. I think it's very good to highlight what happens with our people when they've left here. So
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Let me pile on before you
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
and to say to the committee here. These kinds of celebrations are more than just parties. These are a reinforcement of the values of our community as reflected by the graduates. And the fact that they are both generous with their time, but also thankful for their experiences really does say a lot about the hard work that the district puts in to help shape their educational experience and their community experience. I think it's really positive that we're celebrating folks whose contributions to society, both here in town and in our broader community, is important, but also the creation of such pageantry and of such a ritual is a lot of hard work. And so I would like to say thank you to the committee for having the willingness to do this above and beyond all of your regular responsibilities in your life, because it also reflects a certain commitment to this community and this community's values. And so thank you for all that hard work. And I just look forward to the event, and the evolution in the history that you shared with us, I think, is really important, because what it suggests is that we're providing not only a recognition of people who have done well, but we're providing access to role models for the students today to see what it takes and to hear not only the challenges and the successes that these folks have faced, but also then to be a part of that and to be connected to it through their shared experience in D303. So thank you very much for your hard work and for the effort you put in on behalf of the community.
No, thank you.
All of those pieces, Jeff, Lisa, Lindsay, Scott, the committee, thank you. Exactly what Mr. Lackner just spoke about. Thank you for giving your time, because it is a lot of time that you're offering to our community and our district. Sincerely appreciated. One of those members on this list that were not mentioned was a person at the table. Just outstanding individual that I had the opportunity to get to meet roughly 2 years ago. He looked at me like, who are you talking about? Outstanding individual. When I think about Clint Hall, I think about service above self. You are that definition of that. It has been a true honor to get to know you and be able to work with you in this fashion and in other areas that you give your time and effort to our district. When I think about D303, I really do think about you. and what you do for our community. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your commitment to our district, and the broader community. Outstanding. Thank you
Well,
all.
That's really kind. I am the son of a D303 teacher, so that's all you need to know. So thank you very much, and thanks for those kind words.
Outstanding. A little bit of the north piece I just want to put out there, and then we're going to bring these women in here, hopefully for July. As many of you know, North Soccer came up, one shot short of a state title, but they came in second. Incredibly proud of them. Our North Star girls softball, though, on Saturday, took state championship. Really proud of them. And again, we'll try to get them in July and try to celebrate them like we do others within our district. I'd ask Jared Buxton to come up and give a brief update on our Davis mobiles. Where are we going? What are we doing in that area? Mr. Buxton.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to give the board a brief update, including timelines specific to the Davis space utilization plan, which you've heard a little bit about over the last couple of weeks. So over the course of the last 3 weeks, Mrs. Shaw and I have had the opportunity to engage with multiple families from the rising fourth grade Davis students regarding a space plan that was communicated by Mrs. Shaw on May 20th and May 21st, which did indicate that the fourth grade would be placed in the mobile unit for the 24-25 school year. I want you all to know we have engaged with each and every one of those parents that have come forward. We have synthesized the data. They've been very meaningful conversations. We've learned a lot of from their perspective. I can assure you our goal is to fit every core classroom in Davis Elementary School. However, before we can definitively state a space plan, we're going to need to continue to look at enrollment numbers and to see where there may be modifications to the space plan that has been communicated. As you know, throughout late summer, early summer, those numbers do fluctuate, and there are a couple very particular grade levels we have a close eye on. Based on what those numbers look like, it could tip the balance one way or the other with how that space is utilized. I would also want to add that there's two other factors happening kind of concurrently that also can impact the communicated space plan. One is June 1st brought the conclusion of returning student registration. We did notice at the conclusion of that window, we still had many families who had not submitted their registration for the 24-25 school year and had also not indicated to the school their intention to move or not be a returning student in the fall. So the action item that then started is last week, Mrs. Shaw and her admin team was in contact with each and every one of those families who had not submitted a returning student registration to get a one-to-one contact, to kind of firm up what their plans are for the fall. Please note those students are in our current projections. So should we capture a couple of kiddos who maybe are not attending D303 in the fall, that too could give us some space utilization flexibility. The second thing is we are also in the midst of our intra-district transfer window, which opened May 15th and does remain open through the month of June. Very much so, we're going to be looking at those two particular grade levels and seeing where we have transfer in requests, where we have transfer out requests, and see what the relationship is between those two numbers to see if that process allows us some flexibility in our space plan as well. All in all, I just want to commit to, we have heard our parents. We really do want to make every effort to get each and every student core classroom in that building, but we will continue to monitor enrollment through probably second week of July before we can feel really confident of what our final section numbers will be for those particular grade levels, which will ultimately impact the space plan. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
For the interdistrict transfers, would it make sense to cap it? I mean, I use the word cap loosely, right? But to not open an additional
Correct.
section so that we can make sure that all the kids fit in?
Yeah, that's a very good point. We don't use the inter-district transfer process to to go up a section. It might be a situation with, if we have a few more students wanting to transfer out than transfer in, it might prevent a section from, or a grade level from going to an additional section and staying at a smaller number.
So I know there's been some concern expressed about that mobile. That mobile is going to be there for this coming school year only. After that, it is going to be removed. That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay. So beyond this year, no one needs to concern themselves with being in a mobile for anything at Davis.
Correct.
That is correct.
Mr. Buxton, interested in just a little bit of elaboration, those discussions for the returning student registration. Were you able to identify any trends when you were discussing it with them? Was this they forgot, they are
Well,
leaving, they're
yeah, we
staying?
did identify it, and this was a trend throughout a couple of our buildings. It's just a reminder that the returning student registration is you're registering to the district, not the school. So I think we had several families who were waiting to register until they knew definitively what school they were attending. So it's just reminding them, the returning student registration is where you're registering to the district. Therefore, that can start the process of that school placement. That was the biggest theme that I heard in my conversation with building admin.
Was there a healthy amount of the population that indicated they would not be returning?
With that window closing on June 1st, which I believe was a Saturday, the building team didn't even get to those calls until so I have not gotten an update from Mrs. Shaw as far as like if they've gotten through all of them. I do believe they've caught a couple who don't intend in returning, but I don't know if it's, if they're all the way through their exhaustive list.
So that intent to not return, is that then perhaps opting for a private school if they're still living
Well,
within the
a lot of
boundaries?
times it's moving.
Okay.
Sometimes parents will indicate to the school or to the teacher or to the 12-month admin, hey, we're gonna be moving in the fall. And then they just don't complete the returning student registration. But what happens if you notice by that June 1st date, you have a crop of students that have not completed the returning student, but you've also not heard anything about them not returning in the fall? That's why those personal
All right. I was
calls are
just
important.
referencing, you had mentioned that some were waiting because they weren't sure if it was registration to a school or they had to have it clarified it was registration to a district. And I was wondering if people were concerned what school they were going to go to. And then based upon that, they were going to potentially, did you
Yeah,
hear any of that?
I didn't get any indication that that was the misunderstanding.
But you did say that those numbers reflect even the students who didn't register.
That's
So-
correct. If they were a student in 23, 24, and we didn't have any knowledge of them moving or going the private route, we kept them in our projected numbers. And now that they are in our numbers, but we don't have that formal process of returning student registration, that's why those connections are being made with the building level front office team to just confirm what the plan is for August.
I want to thank you for making, this is down to the nitty gritty of, one student can really make a difference, but trying to get all of the kids into the brick and mortar is, I'm glad we're making that effort. So thank
Yeah,
you.
well, thank you. And I can assure you
I
that.
want to clarify all 4 classrooms.
Yeah.
I don't want to have any misinformation here. All core classrooms is the piece that we're attempting to do. Mr. Buxton, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. The last thing we have, we'll finish off on a celebration. We have our celebration video. Dave, you want to start that? Continue to be in awe of our students, our staff, and our families of District 303. I know it's only a minute, 32 minutes, but it is absolutely incredible what occurs in our district on a day-to-day basis. And this one small way of being able to highlight so many little pieces that occur within our district that most people don't see happening. But start where I finished. I'm in awe of our students, our staff, and our families. This really is an amazing place. Mr. Lackner, back to you.
Thank you. In a lot of ways, I wish that part of the agenda would last quite a bit longer. That was pretty fantastic. So thank you for that. That brings us to a more mundane part of our agenda, which is the board committee reports. Let's start with the L&T.
Well, I'll try and keep it as exciting as possible then, right? We'll bring a little energy into this update. Okay, so L&T met back on May 21st at 5:30. We opened with a discussion regarding PLCs, and then Dr. Igo shared some positive initial ELA iReady results. We're going to be doing a deeper dive actually a week from today on some of that end of year data as well. All grade levels had results between the 60th and 70th percentiles. There was an interesting graphic showing that upper right quadrant, and we kind of see our students embedded in that area, which is a good spot to be. Again, more details. Another highlight there was sixth grade, and sixth grade had more than a 200% growth, and grades 3 through 5 showed over 150% growth. So still plenty of work to be done. None of us are content, but it's certainly good to see some of the fruits of the hard work. Kudos to everybody involved there. We moved forward then to a middle school structure committee update. So there were 17 members involved in this committee, spanning principals, middle school educators, learning and teaching reps, district admin. So it was really a collaborative effort. And part of the discussion was regarding the distinction between a middle school and a junior high. And a middle school is meant to be a bridge between elementary school and high school, not just with an emphasis on content and individual experience. So a couple of things, just quick bullets that the committee was working on. So they're researching middle school philosophy and the structures associated with them, researching practices that support the academic and social emotional growth that also align with our strategic plan, develop mission, vision, values, guiding practices rather. They're conducting a gap analysis from that current to the ideal future states, and then a multi-year plan to move forward from said current state to the future state. I encourage everyone, my 30-second synopsis is not sufficient, so please do go back, check out that presentation, and review the discussion that we had. Next, we moved on to high school experience review. This included an audit by the district and the high school academic experiences and outcomes. There has been robust discussion at this board table between district administration and the board regarding the various pathways of that high school experience. Again, really, really robust conversation, great discussion that we had at the table. But, kind of one of the overarching themes is we've seen many questions from the board regarding an understanding of selections of courses based off of various pathways, right? We want to create an experience for all of our students. So whether they're going into industry or into selective institutions, we want a really comprehensive and robust framework for these students, counselors, parents, and so forth to be able to navigate through. So again, this doesn't do the discussion justice. Please do go back, listen to that, and then chime in to the board if you have any feedback. We closed with a couple of resource recommendations, one for pre-calculus, and this was really to find a resource that would serve both students in the pre-calculus and the AP pre-calculus route. This, I believe, is on consent agenda for this evening. We had then moved on to the Spanish resource recommendation for grades 6 through 12. Much like the other processes that we had that underwent a CAI review process, and they made a recommendation again that will be on consent agenda for this evening. The next meeting we have will be next Monday, June 17th, at 5:30. We'll be talking a bit about blended learning and end of year data. Mrs. McCabe, anything I missed there? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuschert. I think that brings us to business services.
Business services met on May 30th. We started with our normal rundown of our financial reports for Mid-Valley and D303. There's no current areas of concern. For D303, revenue is trending slightly ahead of last year. We then moved into our the Wellness Committee Triennial Assessment. So as part of our participation in the school lunch program, we must complete a triennial wellness assessment. The team conducted the readout. I brought up a couple of recommendations for the board to look at. There was some good discussion around wellness and some follow-up items that would be part of PLCs and other things. Next, we transitioned into our long-term budget review. So this was the presentation of Learning and Teaching's 5-year budget, excluding our schools and student services, which will be presented next month or in this month's meeting. We discussed a number of structural changes that were done to the budgeting process to help us kind of keep track of some of the board's requests. Specifically, I'll call out summer school, as well as some of the restructuring there that make it a little bit easier for us to track and to manage and to be able to evaluate progress. We also discussed some of the structural changes, some of the acquisition of curriculum and how we manage those expenses. So Mr. Wagner brought up last time, kind of helping manage those cycles a little bit better to smooth out our budget. We also moved into the treasurer's surety bond. So there was a change in Illinois law in 2023 that allows our surety bond to be reduced to 20 million from 50 million. That is a part of the consent agenda for tonight's meeting. There was also a presentation of the South Elgin Intergovernmental Agreement. This is the agreement that we have with South Elgin to utilize Quoron, and I believe it's through 2027. That is part of tonight's consent agenda as well. Next, there was a discussion of the driver's education waiver for the school years. So it's a 5-year thing from 2025 to 2030. So the district operates our driver's ed program and our costs. Let me zoom into my notes here. We have right now a direct per student cost within the last the last year or so of about $632.83. And we're, I believe, charging $400 a year. So we're subsidizing quite a bit of that cost. The admin recommended increasing our cost because this waiver is a 5-year waiver. So increasing our cost to $600 through 2030, which is very comparable to some of the other driver services, actually much less than some of the other driver services that are out there today. So it would put us in a little bit better position fiscally. We also discussed in that if there are families that have hardship or other things, what the process is for them to be able to take advantage of that fee waivers and other things. Next, we talked about the GSF contract renewal. So the renewal reflects an increase of about 8.95% in total costs for D303. and an 8.16% cost for our cleaning of Norris Recreation Center. The biggest component of that renewal was Illinois' increase in the minimum wage. So that really drove the costs for us. The total cost for this 1-year renewal is it's about 3.5 million for D303 and 146,000 and some change for Norris. That is also on consent agenda for tonight. Then we got an update on some of our construction. Things are moving pretty well at all of our many construction projects that we have going in the district. I definitely encourage folks to go back and look at it. I think Amanda and Justin walked through quite a bit of stuff that we have going on. Then the next thing was our East High School elevator modernization. So that elevator, I think, is from like 1976, and the elevator modernization should take place, I think, every 15 to 25 years or so. And I believe maintenance has been done on it, right, throughout the time, but we were planning to do that in the current capital plan next year. Unfortunately, there have been a number of issues, so the team kind of shuffled things around, and they're going to do it this summer, just due to the number of issues. There's an item on consent agenda today to approve through Sourcewell Cooperative the purchasing contract for $203,140 to Schindler Elevator to complete that modernization this year. Next, we have the North High School LRC furniture purchase. There's a purchase order for $28,910 to Lowry McDonald for the purchase of furniture at North. One thing that I did appreciate was that students and staff actually got a chance to try out the furniture, and that it is similar to other furniture in the district. That is also on consent for tonight. Next, we have the North High School mobile demolition. That is a contract to KLF Enterprises for $34,000 for the North High School mobile demolition. We'll be getting a separate one for the demolition of the mobiles at East. And then to Mr. McNally's point, then we'll only have one mobile for one more year in the district. Next item discussed was the North High School gym floor project. That was actually supposed to be done in 2010. So it's a little bit overdue. This work will occur next summer because we're getting on the calendar for that organization next summer. This is also part of consent. Let me just check here. This is a purchase order in the amount of $155,400 to Kiefer USA to do that work for us. Next was the Fearson Creek parking lot improvements. That one will go to Bear Construction Company through the interlocal purchasing system for $217,974. That one was moved around this year because there were some other challenges. So that one's been reprioritized for us. That is also on consent for today. Next item on the agenda. Sorry, this wasn't as long as our previous agenda. So Haynes and Lincoln School and Safety Improvements. Thank you to our facilities team for looking at where we're doing active construction and helping prioritize some of the safety and security things that the board has already set. This will be a contract for or a change order to Pepper Construction in the amount of $107,101 for Lincoln and $230,032 for Haynes Center. So we're able to, kind of do all that construction in one go. Next, furniture purchases. This is approving from the board up to $100,000 to Verco for furniture purchases for the school year. That's aligned with our normal budget for furniture. That is on consent as well, as is the Haynes and Lincoln safety. And then next, we have our annual district IT renewals that is on consent. In that are our SysCloud, which is our Google admin backup, Final Site, that's our mass communication tools, our district website work, our eSchool Plus, Schoology, AMP, and LMS. Excuse me, Performance Matters, that's our assessment platform, Raptor, visitor management software, and Security Filter, that's our student web filtering and safety stuff. So that's all on consent as tonight's agenda. And then last item on the list here, we've had some challenges with the phone system, and so there is a item on consent here that we reviewed that would be updating our phone system to make it consistent throughout the district. Hopefully get rid of some of the outages that we had last year. That's for $30,290. And I think I'm done now.
If I could just clarify, the Treasury surety bond is for action. It's not on consent.
Yes, correct. I'm sorry. We do have some members who have to abstain from that one. So thank you for that clarification, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. I don't see additional committee reports being necessary, but let me open the floor. Are there any other committee reports? That brings us to item 4, and we do have citizen comments.
During the public comment period, members of the public body who wish to speak are asked to first state their name and the community in which they reside. Each individual will have up to 3 minutes to address the board on a topic of their choosing. We ask all individuals who address the board to do so with respect and civility towards others. Please note that personnel matters are sensitive and confidential. We also want to inform our speakers that all regular, special, and committee meetings are live streamed and available for viewing at any time on the district's YouTube channel. Personal information should be considered before making a statement that will be recorded and made public. While the board will not respond to today's public comment during this meeting, we are committed to listening to you to help support our work for the district and on behalf of our students, staff, families, and community members. Thank you.
Our speaker tonight is Jenny Jost.
Good evening. Thank you again for all being here. I was here a couple weeks ago, and I just want to first and foremost start out by saying thank you for addressing all of our concerns about the Davis mobiles. We really appreciate you taking the time. And I really appreciate that all of you board members have also kind of asked your questions and are also diligent to make sure that our students aren't out there for any longer than they need to be, and appreciate the 1-year commitment. But I just would like to reiterate, I know you spoke about scores and testing, and that was just one additional comment I did want to bring up and have you kind of further think about as we're trying to reevaluate how to use that space, right? Can we think about, with that testing, ensuring that core curriculum, and I think you addressed that, Dr. Gordon, would not be placed in those mobiles, correct? Our reading, our math, which are really tied into directly to these test scores, right? Our concern is our students and how they may perform with music class going on right next to them and kids traipsing through in the non-inclusive school kind of environment. So I just want to, again, kind of reiterate that point. If that could continue to be considered and really pushed upon through administration, through Mrs. Shaw, to really kind of think through that, again, as much as you possibly can. And then another request that we do have is there a plan in place for testing that particular mobile over the next year, right? We have removed the mold from what we've been told, but is there a monthly checking the air quality, even if we are doing art classes, music classes out there, just ensuring again that it is a safe environment going forward? I guess our ask is if something like that could be put in place so that at least over the next year, again, we all know it's safe and there aren't any further concerns. So that was kind of an additional, again, we thank you for listening. We would appreciate any further input you can have with it, and certainly it continuing to stay on the table as discussion and really kind of thinking about those kids, whether it's 4th grade or a different grade. We just would like to eliminate that mobile as quickly as possible. So again, I appreciate your time and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for your comments. That brings us to item 5, the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda 5A through 5Z?
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Ms. Marsan, can you take the roll?
Yes, Mr. Kuschert,
Yes.
Mr. Lentz,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner.
Yes. The motion passes 6-0. That brings us to item 6 on the agenda, our items for action. We have 2 items. Item A is the SEEA Memorandum of Understanding related to early childhood. Can I have a motion to approve the Memorandum of Understanding regarding early childhood?
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Ms. Marsan, can you take the roll?
Mr. Lentz,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Kuschert,
Yep. Yes.
Mr. Lackner.
Yes. That brings us to item B for action, the treasurer's surety bond. Can I have a motion to approve the surety bond to be filed by the treasurer with the amount established and fixed at $20 million for fiscal year 24-25?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you for that. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Ms. Marsan, can you please take the roll?
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Kuschert,
Yes.
Mr. Lentz,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner.
Abstain. The motion passes with a vote of 5 yes and 1 abstention. That brings us to the 7th item on the agenda for information. There are 4 items included in the packet for your information. Item A, the District 303 Financial Report. Item B, the Mid-Valley Financial Report. C, Freedom of Information Act requests. And D, District Enrollment. With that, that brings us to item 7E, Board Committee Co-Chairs. President Fairgrieve has selected the Board Committee Co-Chairs for this year ahead, and they are as follows. For Business Services, Mr. McNally and Mr. Lentz. For Learning and Teaching, Mr. Kuschert and Mrs. McCabe. And for Policy, Mr. Lackner and Mrs. McCabe. There are other committees, DPTO with Mrs. Bell, and Safety, which is the Superintendent's Committee, Mrs. Bell and Mr. Lentz. That brings us to item 8, New Business. Do any board members have any new business at this time?
I don't have new business, but I had a concern brought to me by a community member regarding movement of access students, and I just wanted to double check and see, have we had to move any of the access students? Anderson was the concern that was presented to me. Have we had to move any of
Looking
those?
out over at Ms. O'Brien, I'm not hearing of any, but we can,
None? Okay, all right, thank you.
Hearing no other new business, that brings us to end of meeting citizen comments. Given that there are none, that brings us to our last agenda item, adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn the June 10th,
So moved.
2024 school board meeting?
Seconded.
Fantastic. Ms. Marsan, can you take the roll?
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Kuschert,
Yes.
Mr. Lentz,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner.
Yes, the meeting